And I'll also confess and maybe apologize, but I'm not going to give a talk about tranquility tonight, although that was what I had promised. As conditions changed, so did my talk. And what I'd like to do, and this is going to be a little bit of an experiment. So I do have some notes and also just a lot of inspiration over the last few days around the themes of reciprocity, of generosity, of gratitude. And so I thought I would just speak to that because it's on my heart and it's in my mind, and it's actually kind of even the flavor of what just came up for me during that sit of in the middle of a kind of a set of challenging circumstances, to be able to drop into this space with all of you and feeling so nourished in a way in which the giving is sort of an expression of the gratitude. So I'll start with just a couple of little things that happened to me in the last couple of days that sort of precipitated this talk, or these themes. And one was that I had a student. Okay. There's someone who walked by the car and I thought they might be stopping me for some reason. There was a student that I've been mentoring who was preparing this talk on engaged Buddhist practice. And it's such a topic that's just so dear to my heart. It feels like the koan in a way of my life, of how it is that this practice on the cushion is becomes our practice in the world, and is fundamentally our practice in the world, and how it implicates us to respond skillfully to the conditions and challenges of our times. And she was looking at two different elements, which I just thought was so beautiful, the way she parsed it out. And one was the focus on sila, and sila, in Pali is kind of the moral conduct. So the Buddha actually gave the paramis as the first instruction in practicing Buddhism, and the paramis are seen as the perfections, and they are generosity, dana, virtue, which is sila, renunciation, nikama, wisdom, which is pana, energy, which is virya, patience, which is kanti, truthfulness, saka, sacha, determination, aditana, loving kindness, which is metta, and equanimity, which is upekkha. And so the first of those paramis, the first aspects of the mind and heart that need to be developed for seeing clearly are generosity and virtue, dana and sila. And so my student was talking about how when we commit to sila, when we commit to virtuous conduct in the world, it's speaking truthfully, and not taking what's not given, and not misusing sexuality, and really having a sort of moral uprightness. The Buddha talked so much about how this was beneficial for one's practice, because the mind isn't clouded with regret and remorse. And also it's a giving to the world. It's a generosity to the world, that we become safe harbors, not just for our own selves, but for everyone, when we cultivate virtue. So she was speaking to the cultivation of virtue, of non-harming, as something that compels us to engage skillfully, to be have wise engagement and wise response with the conditions in our world. And then she also said that, as the mind and heart are developed and they get more pure and they and clear, that we begin to see so clearly the interconnection between us, and that harming another is harming oneself. And the wisdom factor kind of prevents or prohibits us from behaving in harmful ways, and compels us also to respond wisely and skillfully and lovingly. So those two pieces of, okay, well, I'm going to take on these precepts. I'm going to take on sila, good moral conduct, and that will have this impact on how I engage in the world. But then, as we take on sila, as we do clean up our minds and hearts, and we develop the paramis of generosity, of virtue, of renunciation, of all of these things, then just inevitably we are compelled to act skillfully. So it's like a sort of organic process. And I begin with that story, or it's not even a story, but that that comparison, because I see that in gratitude and generosity as well. And in so many of the Buddha's lists and the factors that he describes in bringing us to freedom, that there are these reciprocal relationships where things strengthen one another. That in cleaning up the mind and heart, we're not only engaging in skillful action, but we're becoming people who are, of course, going to be uh, conducting ourselves kindly and lovingly. So I'll also bring in giving, generosity, dana, and I want to bring that in with respect to the giving and the gratitude, because again, this is something that I am feeling so acutely in my life right now. One of the reasons that I am in transit is because I've been having a couple of years of some pretty acute health conditions, and I had to go into town to get some medical work done. And there is something about, as I am having these experiences of working with like very kind healthcare practitioners. I mean, the healthcare system is not an easy thing to navigate. It's just not. For me anyway, it's sort of its own obstacle course. And in it, I keep encountering these incredibly caring, giving, generous people, and being touched by that. So even the person that I just worked with in Portland, so kind, so concerned about my well-being, and coming from that, I can feel how receiving that kindness, that generosity from another, it engages, that gratitude engages my own desire to give back. Can I be of service too? Can I give back in a way that is just so inspired by the love that I felt like I received. So again, just the reciprocity. I'll keep bringing this up again and again, but this is really where my heart and mind are these days. So dana, it's the first of these 10 paramis, the first of the paramis, and so clearly it has this really high place in the teachings of the Buddha. He talked about not just the importance of ethics, but that after ethics and calming the mind, that the importance and benefit of practicing generosity, that if we only knew, the happiness that we would have from giving things away, we would give everything away that we owned, or something like that. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but that's what he would tell his disciples. But then also, once a person had awakened, the Buddha would instruct them to go out to benefit others, to be of service. So even the awakening itself, like the giving would lead to this awakening, this giving and renunciation would lead to this freedom. But even after becoming free, the Buddha would tell these arhats, these awakened ones, to be of service. So the Buddhist path really it begins and it ends with this virtue of dana, of generosity, and it also means in this tradition like giving freely without expecting anything in return. So it's truly an act of giving that's out of compassion, um, of goodwill, of desiring someone else's well-being, and that the gift itself, it's not contingent. The power of that gift, it's not contingent on the amount that's given, but on the attitude that it's that is with which it's given. Um, I remember I had a friend who went to business school. This was years ago, and he came from very little money. He was actually from Eritrea in Africa, and his family had very little. And as he started to make money, I remember he would just start giving 10% of everything that he earned away to his family or to nonprofit organizations. And I asked him once, because I think most people that I knew who had little, they were saving up. It was like they would save to at least get some sort of security, and then maybe they would give some of the extra away. But I asked him about this practice, and he said, "Oh no, if I don't start giving now, I'm never going to have enough to give. It's like I'll never have enough to feel like, okay, now I can start giving." So he started giving when he didn't have all of his whatever needs met. I mean, maybe he did, because who knows what a need is, but in terms of what other people's standards of living was. But I thought that touched me. That was maybe 20 years ago, and I still remember that the practice of giving, it's a practice, and that the idea of having enough can always be further down that road. But giving too, it's not just material things and money. It's you know friendliness and helping hands and services and attention. Those are incredibly beautiful things to offer each other in the world. The Samyutta Nikaya 132, there's a phrase: some provide from the little they have, others who are affluent don't like to give. An offering given from what little one has is worth 1,000 times its value. What little one has is worth 1,000 times its value. I was thinking about that, especially as I've been going through the healthcare system, and these people are just so overworked and have so many patients and so many lines of people and wait lists. And it's just, I really have so much empathy for them. And to have that just like that friendliness, just a little bit of friendliness and compassion from one of those really, most of them I feel like are so depleted in their jobs right now. And that offering, I mean, it's exponential. It like is exponential. I mean, I just can't tell you how touched I've been. Yeah. And another aspect of the dana is the joy of giving. So it's actually not meant to be obligatory. Like I have to give 10% of my earnings, to be a good Buddhist. It's actually said to be performed when the giver is delighted, before, during, and after the giving. So there is an instruction that the Buddha would offer of really reflecting on, before you're going to give, how does it feel in the heart? And then during, how is it feeling? And after, how did it feel to reflect on that, and that on the giving, on the act of giving? And ideally it's supposed to feel great. It's supposed to feel really delightful, like to be able to, and really to, again, like saturate oneself in that memory of how good it felt to give, to be generous with whatever that was. Yeah. I actually have another story. I might just do a lot of storytelling tonight because I don't have as much um, liturgy prepared, but my sister and I, this again was about 20 years ago, we hiked the Pacific Crest Trail together for a couple of months. And we had this experience where, well, the first experience was just that after a few weeks on the trail, and we met a number of other people who were hiking for the whole trail, you know, the through hikers. I don't think it was quite as popular as it's become. Oh, we didn't see all that many people, but the people we did see, there was some kind of shared ethic of generosity. And I don't know if it was the many days of just simple living, of really being so so simple. I mean, we really had everything on our backs, and um, it was so easy to give things away. And we would run into people who might have, you know, be short on a particular food or something. And it would just be so wonderful to be able to give them our extra. Or, you know, if someone had a hurt ankle, to be able to give them our athletic tape. And it felt there was such a reciprocity. All of the other through hikers, it was that we shared that with each other. There was just this kind of, oh, I have what you need, please take it, kind of ethic. And then she and I ended up at one spot in the trail, and we were crossing this. It was supposed to be a creek, but it had been pouring rain. We got really, really, really wet weather, which maybe to all of you sounds really nice right now. I don't. It sounds really nice to me right now, but it was just torrential rain, and so this creek had turned into more of a river waterfall experience. And uh, don't ask me why, but my sister decided to throw her shoes over the river and then hike through. And needless to say, we saw one shoe go over, and then the second shoe didn't make it and went down the waterfall. And so we had this moment of, you know, did that really just happen? Did that happen? It really happened. And so we're standing there and, you know, kind of bereft, and we didn't have extra shoes. We didn't bring extra anything, you know, we had what we needed. And there was this man who we'd been kind of hopscotching with for the last few weeks, who was also doing a long, long hike. And he had happened to have a pair of aqua socks. He had his hiking boots and he had aqua socks. And so he gave my sister his size 10 aqua socks. And you haven't seen me, but she's my twin sister. We're the same size. We are small people, like very small people. And so these are these giant aqua socks. And we end up hiking out, and we had to hike out of the trail, you know, to try to figure out what to do next and get shoes to the trailhead. So we hiked 10 miles out to the trailhead, and the trailhead was at a place where you kind of have to drive in, you know, there's nothing there. And there was a ranger there though. So she takes us back to her home. It's on a Sunday. I still remember she takes us to her home, and it's Sunday dinner, and she has us over for her dinner. It's funny, I think about it too. And it's like before COVID, we didn't have to worry about being like inside with people, with the whole family. Um, and my sister and I were vegetarian, and it's like a pot roast and potatoes, and it's this whole thing. And we just received it. I mean, it was the generosity was just incredible, incredible. We ended up camping in their yard, and she gave us an old pair of tennis shoes in the morning. I mean, the whole experience from aqua socks to Sunday dinner it was just an amazing experience. And in fact, you know, that whole trip of hiking an incredible trail for 2 months was beautiful, but that memory just stands out to me as really emblematic of the joy of giving and the joy of receiving. Like, it was just incredible to be in what felt like this dynamic give it uh, relationship rapport of giving and receiving, and you could see how delighted she was to be able to harbor us after that particular challenge. I mean, it was just beautiful. So there's so many ways, you know, we also engage in acts of generosity and don't even realize it. I mean, we don't even know it. And even all of you showing up here tonight, you know, giving each other this sense of community and solidarity, it's a beautiful act of generosity. Like, what is that, to just take that in, you know, that the gratitude for each other being here, and the sense of, oh, my own generosity for showing up. I think about this a lot. I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot more lately, but you know, this, how also being in that reciprocal relationship, it disrupts our sense of separation. I'm not sure if you know, any of you know Robin Wall Kimmerer, but she's a Potawatomi, yeah, Native American author and biologist. And she wrote a book called Braiding Sweetgrass. And she has this story of teaching biology to college students. And she asks the students to raise their hands if they love nature. And everyone raises their hand. And then she asks them, raise your hand if you think nature loves you. And I think maybe one student, Marcia has read it too, it sounds like, so maybe you can correct me, but I think it's one student raises their hand. And she really, you know, she points to that as how it is that we've kind of lost our sense of reciprocity in the world, that we can't exist in these sort of one dimension or one directional relationship, but instead we are interconnected with one another. And what it is to really sense our interconnectedness and the way in which those relationships of reciprocity are woven in the gratitude and the giving. I think that's also an aspect in certain ways of kind of the conditioning that people in more, to use, this isn't the best word, but more developed countries, higher income culture countries, they people tend to feel more lonely and alienated and anxious. And there's this self view that, you know, you're on your own and you compete and you keep it for yourself. And we've lost that sense of being part of something meaningful, you know, just being some part of something that's so much larger than ourselves. And developing dana, developing generosity, is one way that we really go against that, you know, get it for yourself kind of attitude. There's this great little story from Ajahn Suchito in the Thai forest lineage tradition. And I'm just going to read it. It's a little long, but I'll read it. He writes, I was reading a while ago about a social model that is used on some islands in the Indonesian archipelago, where the aim is to gain as much debt as possible. What happens is this: you get in your canoe with your pig and you paddle over to another island where you give somebody your pig and they give you a coconut. They are then indebted to you because your pig was worth more than their coconut. Now they have a bond with you because they are indebted to you. Then they take their pig and they swap it for somebody else's pineapple so that that person is now indebted to them. In this way, they gradually create a whole network of feeling connected, of belonging and owing something to everybody else. This movement of energy enacted between people, and often between a person and the land, is what constitutes a firm sense of being in the world, rather than trying to find a place of one's own in the world, which always leads to stress. In the island's system, a really important person is one with such incalculable debts that there is no way they can ever pay them off. They are indebted to a whole village or a whole island, and it is impossible to pay it all off. Such a person is considered to have made so many connections that they are a success. I just love that. I had mentioned earlier that there were two stories or two sort of little vignettes that kind of inspired this talk. And the first was speaking to my student, and really being touched by the way in which she brought reciprocity, or this kind of reciprocal, relationship into what it is to be engaged, to have practice that's a socially engaged Buddhist practice of how we refine sila, our own virtue, which kind of asks us to behave skillfully, but then in refining our sila and in doing the practice, we kind of naturally, the wisdom factor compels us to act and behave in that way because we sense our interconnection. And the other was, again, about the reciprocity of generosity and gratitude, which I've been speaking to also. And it was that I was teaching this course, and in the same month, the students, I didn't develop the curriculum, but I was mentoring folks who were going through the course. And in the same month, there was some content on generosity and some other content on gratitude. And they weren't in relationship with one another, actually. They were kind of two separate modules. But I was talking to my students about them. And to me, it just felt, I just got like, oh, well, they're the same coin, the different sides of the same coin. Just what I was saying about how that receiving becomes, it elicits the gratitude and the generosity. And that gratitude itself is a form of generosity. I mean, I think about when I've given to people and when I can sense that it touches their heart. They don't even have to say thank you, but there's just a way that I can see the gift of it being received, that is a gift. It brings me joy, so there's just, I just love it. I almost feel like they could be the same word, generosity and gratitude. And there is an element of the giving factor where that practice of giving, like the giving of 10% of my earnings, we also get to understand, we start to see where we're closed, like where we are holding back, where we do feel our fear. We learn what keeps us from being generous, and usually that's also what keeps us from receiving. So it's that practice, we can take it on as a practice to see where we resist it. Where do we resist the giving and where do we resist the receiving? And knowing your own giving heart, which can often be seen as something we give to others, where and when can we extend that to ourselves? When can we let our own gifts, flow to this being here, to the one that in some ways we have the highest duty to care for, this one right here. And also, on this insight path, that the letting go and the letting in is really our practice. I mean, fundamentally, that's what this practice is. It's the freedom from all those forms of clinging, from wanting things to be different, from wanting things to stay the way they are. These are our Four Noble Truths, is that the suffering is caused by wanting things to stay the same, wanting to get things, wanting to push things away. And that really what we're doing is we're allowing things to come in, we're receiving them, and we're allowing them to just naturally let go. And that is where freedom is. Right there is where freedom is. And that's where we undo, the stress of our minds, which, try so hard to create a reality for ourselves that might stick around. But when we really are able to relax and allow experience in and allow experience out, then those are those tastes of freedom right there. And then with morality, with generosity and morality, we're taking other people's welfare into our awareness, and we can incline the mind towards empathy and kindness and compassion. This is what makes our practice, well-rounded and heartfelt, that we're living with that freedom where things can come and go, and also with the kind and conscientious heart. The paramis, as I mentioned earlier, that the last two paramis, the perfections of the mind and heart, are metta and upekkha, loving kindness and equanimity. These are heart qualities. The equanimity allows us to, with care, allow things to come and go from a stable, balanced place. And the metta is that kind, good heart, which really, really doesn't cut ourselves off from ourself or others. It means that we're good friends. We're good friends to ourselves. We're good friends to each other. Let's see if there's anything else that is arising right now to share with you. Oh, I'm noticing so much appreciation for being able to be here in my car and sort of storytell from my heart, with, not a very formalized, put together talk. Yeah, just so much gratitude for your attention and your practice. And it means a lot to me to be part of this evening and this Sangha. I will end with a poem, one of my favorites. And then I'd love, to hear any reflections, questions, inspirations would be great. We'll have a little bit of time for that. So it's Mark Nepo. It's accepting this. Yes, it is true. I confess, I have thought great thoughts and sung great songs, all of it rehearsal for the majesty of being held. The dream is awakened when thinking I love you, and life begins when saying I love you. And joy moves like blood when embracing others with love. My efforts now turn from trying to outrun suffering to accepting love wherever I can find it. Stripped of causes and plans and things to strive for, I have discovered everything I could need or ask for is right here, in flawed abundance. We cannot eliminate hunger, but we can feed each other. We cannot eliminate loneliness, but we can hold each other. We cannot eliminate pain, but we can live a life of compassion. Ultimately, we are small living things awakened in the stream, not gods who carve out rivers. Like human fish, we are asked to experience meaning in the life that moves through the gill of our heart. There is nothing to do and nowhere to go. Accepting this, we can do everything and go anywhere. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Kirsten. So we're opening this up and then you're going to close with metta after this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to check with that. So I really appreciated your talk tonight and just the formlessness of the form that was from your vehicle, which I don't know, it's another story of generosity, if you ask me. So I just wanted to thank you for just off the cuff, just bringing it forward, and it was so beautiful, so heartfelt, so real, so authentic in the moment, and sometimes that's the best talk. So best talk.
Mm,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ditto.
Oh, thank you.
You remind me of, Pema Chodron, come as you are.
Oh, wow, that's the highest of compliments. Wow, thank you.
Beautiful, very
Oh.
beautiful. And I
Mm.
hope you well with your health journey.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. It's rich learning for sure. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Wonder how it would be possible to get a copy of that poem, Kirsten. That was really beautiful.
Oh, I love that poem. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat right now. Um, yeah. Yeah, it's worth rereading, isn't it? Um,
Wouldn't we be able to download it online through Google?
yeah.
I
Oh,
think,
I'm not able to. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to tell you the name of it then, because I am not able to cut and paste apparently. Mark Nepo accepting this.
yeah.
I see it. You just put it on chat.
Yeah.
Kirsten, I really appreciate I always appreciate one's practice coming through the talk.
Mm.
You feel very present, and like Marcia was saying, very much coming from your heart, very much feeling, and clarity. Just really, I really appreciate the clarity, and thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm really happy that yeah, it touched you and landed well. Thank you. That's a gift for me.
I just want to reinforce also how wonderful your stories are. I just find that I get so much more learning and relating and resonance when I hear people's stories.
Mm.
I know they're real, so it's not just, theory that or whatever, but it was an actual experience someone had, and it really touched me. So thank you very much for bringing stories rather than having some huge prepared talk that you thought had to be perfect. Just your stories were wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you all know, but I co-teach an eco chaplaincy, a Buddhist eco chaplaincy training program, and we do a lot of work with story and storytelling. And I think about it as yeah, like a fundamental human practice. We've just been sharing wisdom through story for centuries. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that reflection too.
Mary, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, I have to agree. Thank you, Philip, for saying that, because the stories really resonate more. And seeing as in Grass Valley, we just had a recently storytelling festival. Instead of a potluck at my camp out in 2 weeks, I'm doing a storytelling time. I said, why should we do a potluck? You know, because we're all in different campsites. And I don't like doing food because often I'm playing music. And so we're going to have storytelling at 7. And those can choose to belong or not. You know, it just gives, and it's going to be an open subject. But thank you. And your talk was great. And thanks for taking the time in your car. It's really special.
Oh, I love that idea. I love it. When I was a teenager, I used to have storytelling parties where I would have a bowl of prompts that would be people would pull something out and it would say, tell about your first kiss, or what was a time you were really scared, you know. We used to pass the bowl around.
Thank you for that idea, because I was wondering about whether to do something anonymous like that. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, and you know, we have to have the art of description and, you know, with the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 We have time for maybe one more.
Kirsten?
Yeah. Oh, Virginia.
I just wanted to say that your whole talk, and other people have said that it feels to me like an act of generosity. I mean, the generosity is coming through you to us. So thank you. We're really receiving it, kind of pouring out. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am reflecting on the joy of it, and it is definitely filling me up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, maybe we'll take a couple of moments to dedicate the merit together. So we're taking some time to really reflect on the goodness of your heart, the goodness of being here, of showing up in community, of being part of these reciprocal relationships of giving and receiving, the joy of that, of knowing what it is to be connected. Extending loving connection. May it really spill over. May it touch all beings. That our practices of opening the heart, of releasing clinging, will become real conduits of care. And that all beings everywhere really know deeply that they are connected, that they belong. May all beings everywhere be safe from harm, be happy and well. Be healthy. And really know the deep, deep, deep peace of well-being, of being home, of resting in a sense of belonging, connection.